Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Westbridge. We're so glad you're here today. Let's stand on our feet. We're going to worship together. It's just one thing I'm asking, or one thing I'm needing. A moment this passing is not what I'm seeking. Like it's the air I'm breathing. I want your presence, feet on the earth, heart full of heaven, sealed for you, completely consumes me. I can't get enough, I can't get enough of you. Your fire burning right through me. I can't get enough, I can't get enough of you. Can't get enough of you. Can't get enough of you. Feel free to put your hands together. And I'm after the spirit more than a feeling. And I don't need a reason, no, to keep chasing who you are. Like it's the air I'm breathing. I want your presence, feet on the earth, heart full of heaven, sealed for you, completely consumes me. I can't get enough, I can't get enough of you. Your fire burning right through me. I can't get enough, I can't get enough of you. Can't get enough of you. Can't get enough of you. It's all because of you, Jesus. Every beat is yours, you can have it all. Take over like only you can. All I'm reaching for, you and nothing more. Take over like only you can. Every beat is yours, you can have it all. Take over like only you can. All I'm reaching for, you and nothing more. Take over like only you can. It's all for you, Jesus. Feel for you, completely consumes me. I can't get enough, I can't get enough of you. Your fire burning right through me. I can't get enough, can't get enough of you. Can't get enough of you. Can't get enough of you. Well, we can never get enough of Jesus. And every time he's come through for our lives. So let's sing about that today. I am weary from the waves crashing over every day. God of mercy, please come rescue me. I am longing for your voice, the gentle whisper in the noise. Father, tell me everything's alright. Oh, your power, your Shake the mountains and break the walls apart. Open the heavens, Almighty God, you are overcomer, defender of my heart. It's who you are, Jesus. By your power, the oceans open wide. Your fire falls down, heaven and earth collide. King Jesus, forever by my side. Shake the mountains, break the walls apart, open the heavens. Almighty God, you are overcomer, defender of my heart. Yeah, and by your power, the oceans open wide. Your fire falls down, heaven and earth collide. King Jesus, forever by my side. Your power, your presence breaks strongholds. King of heaven, when you speak, mountains move. I believe there will be breakthrough. Your power, your presence breaks strongholds. King of heaven, when you speak, mountains move. I believe there will be breakthrough. There will be breakthrough in every home, in every life in this room. There will be breakthrough for the lost and all alone, one searching for hope. Oh, they can find it in you, 'cause you always bring the breakthrough. Man, that's how good Jesus is. He always brings the breakthrough.
You embody the fullness of God, wrapped in mercy. You showed us your heart, your love upon the cross, your love poured out for all. Hey. There is no one like the Lord our God. You've been faithful every day of my life. I could search the world and never find another like you, another like you. Jesus, there is no one like you. It's only you. You set a table. You invite us to come. Your body broken. Your blood was enough. This love upon the cross. This love poured out for all. Yeah. There's no one like the Lord our God. You've been faithful every day Jesus, thank you for your presence in this room this morning, Lord. We're all here for you. Nothing else, Jesus. We just came to spend time with you. Lord, nothing satisfies like you do. There's nothing else. Jesus, and we know that in your presence, things change. We are changed in your presence. We become more like you. Jesus, praying breakthrough for everybody who walked in this room this morning, Lord. You know what that looks like for each of us. You know what we need. Maybe it's a breakthrough of peace, a breakthrough of healing, a breakthrough of restoration. Jesus, we lift it up. It's in your hands this morning, Lord. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your presence. It's in your name we pray. Jesus, would you make us more like you? Amen. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. You can go ahead, have a seat, and get ready to enjoy the rest of our service.
Welcome everyone to Westbridge, whether you are online or in person. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's John and I'm a part of our creative team. If you are a first-time guest with us today, welcome. We are so glad that you're here. If you want to learn more about Westbridge, download the Westbridge app. We've got a button called 5 in 5 on the app where you can discover 5 things about Westbridge in 5 minutes or less. On your way in, you may have taken a program. Inside, there are 3 things. First is an outline to follow along with today's talk. Next is a connection card. If you're a first-time guest, please fill out as much information as you feel comfortable giving us. If you bring that card to the Next Steps area in the lobby, we have a t-shirt for you as our way of saying thank you for being here today. The last thing in the program is a giving envelope. If you'd like to give today, you can drop it in the giving station on the way out of the auditorium or mail it anytime. Postage is paid. You can also give in the Westbridge app. Just click on Give at the bottom of the page. Christmas is just over a month away. We will be celebrating with things all month long. There will be ways to serve, give, and celebrate together. Find out more by clicking on Christmas in the Westbridge app. We've already started receiving names through the Hanover Food Shelf for our Angel Tree Toy Drive. There are many ways to get involved, from purchasing gifts, helping organize gifts, or helping hand out gifts to the kids in our community. Find out more by clicking on Christmas in the Westbridge app. As we move to the next part of our service, we want you to know that Westbridge is intentional about creating welcoming environments online and in person for everyone. So no matter what your relationship with God is or isn't, we are so glad that you're here. Enjoy the rest of the service.
Good morning. Welcome to Westbridge Church. My name's Jeremiah. I'm one of the pastors here. It's awesome to have you with us today. I want to say hello to everybody joining us online. Wow, I just got attacked. I don't know if you saw that. A bug just flew right in my eye. Okay, welcome everyone online. That was amazing. I want to say hello to those of you in a parent viewing room. That's a great option if you have small kids you prefer to keep with you during the service. And anybody joining us in our cafe, thanks for joining us there. And a couple of quick things before we jump into the talk today. One is John mentioned Christmas is coming up. We have a lot of events. One thing I want to just put on your radar, we have 7 Christmas Eve services. So 7 services across Christmas Eve and Christmas Eve. So that's going to be coming up, and just be thinking about who you could invite. That's typically a service that somebody who doesn't go to church might receive an invitation to and might say yes to. And that's one of those times of the year that a lot of people will say yes to an invitation where they might not otherwise. So we're going to really do our best to have a very clear, simple presentation of the message of the good news of Jesus. All we want you to do is just get someone here. And we'd love to do that, celebrate that with you. And then the other thing is, some of you have noticed the table of food out in the lobby. We've been doing a food drive this week. We're going to keep that open for one more week as well. So if you missed it today, you can bring something either Thursday night or next Sunday. And this is just a season where a lot of people in our area face some food insecurities, and we want to do our best to be the hands and feet of Jesus and help with that. And so you can bring that back today. You can bring it back Thursday night. You can bring it back Sunday, next Sunday, and we want to make sure and get that out to people that need it. Today we're in part 2 of a series, In God We Trust. In God We Trust. And we started this series last week, and I said this is going to be 4 weeks of talking about money. And I said it last week, 4 weeks of talking about money. And then I mentioned how packed things have been. And so hopefully I noticed there is some available parking in this service now, and so last week we scared off some people. So we're getting. I don't know if this is good news, bad news, but we're in part 2 of a series called "In God We Trust," where we're doing our best to dig into a deeper understanding of what it means to fully trust God, especially when it comes to this area of our money. Now, we discovered last week Jesus says, "Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be," which means our heart follows our money. Right? And intuitive, that's a little bit counterintuitive because we think, no, I will invest in those things that I love. If I love something, I'll give money to it. But the truth is, Jesus actually flips the script on that, and he says, no, whatever you invest in, your heart follows. And we kind of know this is true. It's why, for some of you, you didn't care about the NFL until you joined a fantasy league. Right? And suddenly you have a little money riding on it, and now you're rooting for that third string running back from the Cleveland Browns to just pick up 8 more yards, because it's like, I'll win $15. And so now that you've got some skin in the game, like you care about this running back who before you would never even know the guy's name. We intuitively know this is true. If you bought stock in a company, you never once looked at that stock before, but now that you own stock in that company, you're constantly checking the app. How's my stock doing? Right? You drive by a building that has that logo on it, and you point it out to everybody else in the car. I own stock in that company. I'm part owner of that company. And that's just the reality. Wherever our money goes, our heart follows, which means money is a tool that we can use on purpose to shape our character, to shape the character of the men and the women God wants us to be. So last week we looked at this important word called the tithe. Kind of a churchy Bible word, right? Which simply means tenth or 10%. That throughout the scriptures, there is this command of giving back to God 10% out of what he has entrusted to us. And so last week, here's what we did. We did this big flyover through the scriptures. We went from Genesis through the law of Moses, into the Psalms, into the minor prophets, into Matthew and Mark and Luke and John and what Jesus teaches in that, all the way through to Hebrews, and said, look, every part of the scriptures talks about this idea of returning a tenth back to God. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why that matters and why that is so important. And I will say this, throughout the years, we have done we'll talk about giving, generosity. We'll talk about these things. Typically in a larger series, it'll be 1 week out of a series, and then maybe 4, 5, 6 months will go by, and in another series, we'll do another single talk as a part of that series. And this is the first time in probably 15 years that we've said, no, we're just going to do a full series on this. Okay, 4 straight weeks of talking about this, which I know is a little bit risky from our side of things. Like, that's like, all right, we'll see how small we get by week 4, But at the same time, I feel so strongly about this. I feel so strongly about this that this is for you. I want you to know that we never teach on this from a position of need. We only ever teach on this from a position of health and abundance. So the church is really healthy financially. There are so many people who are practicing this on a regular basis, what we're going to talk about today. And so this is not because the church needs something from you. This is genuinely for you. And so here's how we handle this all the time. And if you're a guest, I love that you're here. Part of me is like, oh gosh, how do we do this without, offending people? But I'm just not going to apologize, to be honest, because this is what the scriptures teach. And the reality is this: our job is to present what the scriptures teach. And what you do with that is between you and God. That's between you and God. You're always welcome here, no matter what. So we're just going to present this. This is what the scriptures teach. What you decide to do with that is between you and God. But my hope is that you go, man, you know why I go to church is not just to always hear what I want to hear, but part of the reason I go is to be challenged and to hopefully change. And so that's my hope and my goal for this today. So last week, big flyover. Here's where this shows up all throughout the scriptures. Today, I want to give you 6 things around why this matters so much, why this is so important. So number 1, why does tithing matter? Whatever is first in my life drives my life. Whatever is first in my life drives my life. Whatever takes first place in my life will usually drive my life. And what we discover through the scriptures is that God wants to be first. Because when God is first, then the rest of my life tends to fall into place. What we read in the scriptures, we discover God makes some promises that if we will determine to make him first in our lives, there's some promises that God makes as a result. In Proverbs, Solomon writes this. He says, honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. Then he will fill your barns with grain and your vats will overflow with good wine. Now, this can get taken out of context, and we're going to dive into this a little bit. And I know that those who take this out of context, they're like, oh, give God 100, he'll give you 1,000, you know? That's not true, okay? That is a false theology. There's nothing in the scriptures that says, make Jesus your choice, drive a Rolls Royce, all right? So I want to be clear. But overwhelmingly, through the scriptures, those who put their trust in God have discovered that God provides, that God takes care of them. It didn't mean they never faced difficulty. Doesn't mean they never had problems. They just discovered that when God was first in their life, they were more equipped and better prepared to face whatever this life brought their way because their trust was in God. Now, we've done all kinds of talks on contentment, generosity, financial wisdom, financial planning, living with margin, and I think those are all necessary things. But today I want to get right to the heart of the issue. The goal behind this series is to get to the heart of the issue. Are you putting God first in your finances? Because when it comes to our financial stress, most of the financial stress we deal with can be directly traced back to the fact that we haven't truly put God first in our finances. And so we try to solve, we think that our problem financially is an external thing when usually it's really an internal thing, and we're trying to solve an internal issue with external solutions. And the reality is, if we would put God first in this area of our lives, it would force us to have a whole new lens through which we view all the other areas of our lives and all the other areas of our finances. And so the reality is this, in the law of Moses, and this is a great sort of like, we kind of went through this a little bit last week, but it really reiterates, this is why we do this. It's not because God needs it from you, right? It says this, bring this tithe before the Lord your God. I love this sentence. The purpose of tithing is to teach you always to put God first in your lives. The purpose of tithing is not God's going, oh man, we're behind budget and we're trying to, we got streets paved with gold and we're trying to get these things paved and we're behind budget up here, That is not at all the heart behind it. The heart behind it is it teaches you to put God first in your life, to always put God first in your life. And the tithe literally means a tenth. God says that when we set aside a tenth of what he's entrusted to us, he will bless our lives. Now here's where this gets really tricky. Bless in our American context typically means rich. We've equated the two, that if I'm blessed, I'm rich, right? It's why if you go to someone's house and they're like, you walk in and you're surprised, man, you guys have a really big, beautiful house. What do they say? They go, oh, thanks, we're so blessed, right? They typically don't say, I know, we're filthy rich. Instead, what do? They go, oh, we're so blessed. I know, thank you, we're so blessed. And so that just makes sense to us because in our context, we've equated the word blessed with rich. The truth is, the word blessed in its original context in the scriptures means happy, and not happy to the point of like, just, oh, happy all the time. It's a deeper happiness. The Greek definition means no more chasing, no more striving, perfectly contented or at peace. That's what it means. And so when you talk about being blessed, it means, oh yeah, because I've put God first in my life and because I return to him a tenth of what he's given to me, then I've learned how to live with this sense of like contentment and peace, and I'm satisfied and I don't have to chase anymore and I'm not striving. That's what it means. Now, it doesn't say you'll not have problems in your lives. It says when we do this, it adjusts our hearts, our attitudes in such a way that we keep God first in all that we do, and then he will bless us. And when God is first, everything else falls into place. So that's really important for us to understand. Whatever is first in my life drives my life. Secondly, you should know this, God's the owner of everything. So even though he asks us to return a tenth back to him, the other 90%, it still belongs to him. Everything you own is on loan. Like that, we just have to remember that. It all belongs to him. Now, I happen to have here 10 $1 bills. I borrowed this from what we call the impossible shot money pot. Now, this is not on my script, but I just have to share this. On Wednesday nights, we do a game called the impossible shot. with 6th through 12th grade students. We bring a basketball hoop in here into this auditorium, we put it in the back. And then we pick 5 kids at random, and then we have them shoot from the stage and see if they can make it. And for every kid that misses, we drop another $1 into the pot. We've been doing it all school year. 5 kids a week. This pot has been growing $5 a week all week long. 2 Wednesday nights ago, we had a kid come up on stage. Hey, you gonna make it? 5 kids. Miss. The 5th kid, yeah, I'm gonna make it. And of course, everyone says that every week. Oh yeah, I got this. This kid just goes, splash, right through the net. I mean, the place erupted. It was unbelievable. The pot was up to $64. And so we just took the money and just dumped it right over his head. I mean, it was amazing. And of course, it's just like $61 bills, or whatever. And so he was just like passing it out to his friends afterwards. It was amazing. So I took $10 from that. I'll put it back. Okay. But here's the reality, right? I learned this as a kid. Like, if I get $10, God just says the first one belongs to me. Now, I own all of it, but I want you to return the first one back to me. And then, out of the other 9, I'm gonna bless your life. Bless, again, not rich. Bless meaning you're gonna be able to live on the other 9. You're gonna be able to live a deeply contented, satisfied, not needing to strive, not needing to chase type of life. The kind of life that we all want, right? Where I'm contented and I'm satisfied and I'm at peace. And when you do that, you'll be able to live at peace, knowing I will provide for you. And then I learned this as a kid. And so my first job, I probably made $10. And I made like $9, $10. Like, oh man, I gave $1 back. Then here's what happened. I got another job when I was about 13, corn detasseling. It's amazing. Okay, good job. And made like $4.50 an hour, and I got 1 paycheck at the end of the summer. Then it was like, oh, that was a big paycheck. Okay, so then it was like several $100s, but I'm giving back to God the time. And then 16 years old, I got a job at the Buffalo Hospital. I was making like $7 an hour. I was like, what? I am rolling. Okay, this is amazing. And so every time I get paid, I'd give back the first. Now, here's why I say this. It's easier when they're ones, right? But as you get a little older, these become 10s, and then it's like, oh, I made $100. I'm gonna give the first 10 back to God. I get to keep 90. At a certain point, then you get to this point in life where you're like, I give the first 100 back to God. I get to keep 900. Okay, then these become thousands. This is getting a little more difficult, isn't it? We're a little bit more attached. We're like, first 1,000 back to God. I get to keep 9,000. I mean, that's like, God, I'm giving you that's a computer. That's a new refrigerator. Could use one of those. And we start to imagine the things that we could do if we were able to keep that. And what we forget is God is the owner of it all. And he actually wants to bless our lives. Bless our lives, meaning give us contentment and peace and satisfaction. And so even in Psalms, it says this, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. The world and all its people belong to him. It all belongs to him. And when we recognize everything we have comes from God, he's the one who gives us the ability to work, the opportunities we have, the talents we have, the resources we have, the influence we have. It all comes from him. Not just our financial resources, everything that we have has been entrusted to us by God. And the reason he asks us to give a 10th back to him is because he wants us to trust him with all of it. He wants to be first in our life. And here's what God knows. This is another big reason this is so important. Money is God's main competition for our hearts. Did you realize that? Have you ever thought about this? In all of the recorded teachings that we have of Jesus as written by the eyewitnesses and those who walked with him during his time on earth, we have 38 recorded parables or stories that Jesus told about spiritual truths. And out of those 38 parables, Jesus talked about money more than he talked about heaven and hell combined. And listen to this. Matthew chapter 6, this is one of Jesus' most famous sermons. He says, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. We talked about that last week, and that's the whole big idea behind this, right? Our heart follows our money. But then, a couple of verses later, he says this, no one can serve 2 masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. You can't serve God and be enslaved to money. Now, this is originally written in Greek. There are moments when the translators are forced into a corner, And they have to sort of choose. They don't have the best word always, so they have to choose the best approximate English word. And it doesn't always capture the full essence of the original word. In verse 24, they choose to use the word money. But in the original Greek, there's a funny word there called mammon. Okay, and mammon it doesn't exactly translate to the dollars and cents that you find in your bank account. Mammon is the spirit that makes you trust your money over God. Mammon is that gut feeling when you have a decision on your hands and you're like, man, I know God asks me to do this, but I'm afraid that this might happen. So I got to kind of like shore up my bets here. Like I know God when I'm looking at some things and I realize this. I look at my bank account and here's my bank account and that's what actually tells me that I'm okay. And I know God says this, but I can measure this. That's the spirit of mammon. The spirit of mammon is trying to draw our hearts to trust our stuff over God. And so, again, if you're a follower of Jesus, if you're not a follower of Jesus, I love that you're here. You can see how, hopefully, a healthy church handles what can sometimes be considered a controversial topic in a healthy way. So you just get to listen in and observe, and that's great. But if you are a follower of Jesus, I'm going to challenge you here today. If you've decided, I just can't do it, I can't give a tenth back to God, my question for you would be this. What does that tell you about how you view the position that money has in your life? And if that's the case, what does it tell you about how you view God? Who or what is going to be first in your life? And if God's not first in your life, if money is first in your life, then how do you feel about that? How is that working for your marriage? How is that working for your relationship with your kids, for your parenting? How is it working for the health of your soul? Because God wants to be first, not because he needs your money. He wants to be first because when he's first, all the other areas of our life fall into their appropriate place. And I know it sounds crazy, and I know it sounds counterintuitive. Giving away a tenth of what we have, it fights against our own self-preservation. But the reality is, there is a God factor in this whole thing that we often overlook. And he's the owner of it all to begin with. It all belongs to him. And here's the reality. You can't take it with you anyways. You have never seen a hearse towing a U-Haul behind it. You don't take any of it with you. In 1992, a group of college students from Concordia University traveled. They were on a trip in the city of Caesarea, and they landed in Israel. They traveled to Caesarea, and they were on an archaeological dig, and a student made a startling discovery. They found a box in these ruins that had 99 gold coins inside. And they were dated back to AD 33. Now think about that, almost 2,000 years old. This is during the time of Jesus. Can you imagine someone having 99 gold coins back then? The amount of worth and value that 99 gold coins would have had in that day? And for some reason, we don't know who it was. Obviously, just they put it in a box. They put it under their bed. I can imagine that person thinking, all right, 99 gold coins. Man, tomorrow I'm not renting anymore. Right? I'm not leasing. I'm pulling the trigger. I'm getting a brand new camel. Low riding around the city, baby, you know? And then, we don't know. At some point, before they ever had the chance to spend those 99 gold coins, whoever was the owner died. And the gold coins were there, sat there for almost 2,000 years. And even if that person had bought the camel, that would be long gone also. It's fascinating. You can't take it with you. When John D. Rockefeller died, one of the wealthiest people who've ever lived, they asked his accountant, how much money did he leave behind? And the accountant, without missing a beat, goes, all of it. You can't take it with you. This is what the Apostle Paul was, a guy who lived in the first century. He traveled around the Roman Empire. He started churches. He'd write letters back to the churches and letters back to individuals. And in this particular letter, he's writing to Timothy, who is the pastor of a church in Ephesus, which is a vibrant and a booming metropolis. It's a wealthy city in the Roman Empire. And this is what the Apostle Paul writes to Timothy. He says, after all, we brought nothing with us when we came into this world, and we can't take anything with us when we leave it. We didn't bring anything with us. We're not taking anything with us. So, he says a couple verses later, teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. And we know that's true. We look at our own economy, and it's up and it's down, and it's up and it's down. It's unreliable. And if that's where you're putting your hope, you're going to be disappointed. He says, instead, their trust should be in God, who richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment. Tell them to use their money to do good. They should be rich in good works and generous to those in need, always being ready to share with others. By doing this, they will be storing up their treasures. Sounds familiar, right? The same thing Jesus said. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. To store up your treasures not here on earth, but you store up your treasure in heaven. And Paul uses the same language. By doing this, they will be storing up their treasures as a good foundation for the future so that they may experience true life. I love that phrase, experience true life, because we all know what it is to experience something that we thought would bring life, only to have it disappoint us. And Paul says that when we make an eternal investment, we are taking hold of the life that is truly life. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't spend any money on earthly things. It should just remind us the goal of life, that is true life, is not to be the one who ends up at the end of your life with the most stuff. In fact, growing up, there was a clothing company when I was a teenager called No Fear. And one of their slogans, they had all these catchy t-shirts, right? One of them said this: "He who dies with the most toys still dies." Like, that's actually pretty smart, No Fear. Good job. You can have a full garage and a full basement and a full storage unit and still live with an empty heart. When your kids were born, did they come out of the womb with a housewarming gift? Did they come out with a renter's check? No. These little leeches came with nothing to contribute. Same as you with your parents. We're born with nothing. We leave with nothing, right? What matters is, where did you invest it while it was in your hands? Because you cannot take it with you, but you can send it ahead. And the way that you send it ahead is by investing in those things that have eternal significance. This is so important, right? And ultimately, here's what we know. Tithing is an act of obedience. It's an act of obedience. I'm going to say something, I don't mean this to be controversial. Tithing is not generosity. Those are very different things. Tithing is not generosity. Tithing is obedience. It's simply doing what God asked you to do in the first place. When you recognize everything you have comes from God, and you make it a priority to return a tenth back to God, then God promises He will take care of you and provide for you. But the issue is not how much money you have. The issue every single one of us needs to wrestle with, if you're a follower of Jesus, is this: do I trust Him? Do I trust God? Do I genuinely believe that He will do what He said He will do? That He is who He says He is? That's why, again, in Malachi, we read this last week, he challenges the nation of Israel and says, test me in this. Look at these verses. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing, there will not be room enough to store it. Now, if you missed last week, I'd encourage you to watch last week because we give context to all of that. But this is such an important thing. God doesn't need something from you. He wants this for you. God wants you to have such an unshakable faith that when the storms of life come your way, you respond differently than anyone else, because you don't have a hope that's rooted in money, which is so unreliable. But instead, it comes from Him. And God recognizes the only way to get your heart and my heart into that kind of shape is to ask you to trust Him fully. And in order to trust Him fully, you cannot cling tightly to your money. And so He says, look, return it to me. Put me to the test and see if I won't bless your life. When you do this, I'm going to bless you. Not specific. Again, not I'm going to make you rich. It's not a directly proportional type of thing. And we wish it was. And I'll be honest, I wish it was. Because I would game the system so hard. I would work the formula. Okay, God promises if I do this, He'll, okay, I don't know, carry the one, okay? I'm going to invest X amount of dollars, and then God, you owe me. And God knows this is what we would do. So the point is not, oh, if I do X amount, God will bless me. The blessing is that He will take care of you. He'll provide for your needs, and you will live a satisfied, contented, peace-filled, no longer chasing and striving kind of life. All we know is this: God consistently reminds us when we trust Him with our money and when we're active and intentional about setting aside the first tenth to bring back to Him, He will bless us. Now, here's what I got to say. This was modeled by my parents. My parents lived this way. I did this with my first job. I did it with corn detasseling. I did it when I worked at the hospital. I did it when I worked as a janitor. I did it, all the various crazy jobs I've had through the years. I've always done this. There was a season in our life, and I shared this last week, where when we first got married, we were 19, barely made any money, and I had so many amazing reasons why I couldn't do this. And a mentor lovingly challenged me on this and said, look, this isn't a money issue, this is a faith issue. And so if you want your faith to grow, you just do this first. Whatever you get paid, you do this first. And then you just rely on God to provide the rest. And so for the last 23, 24 years, this is how my wife and I have lived. We teach this to our kids as well. And here's what I'll tell you. I would tithe even if he didn't promise to bless my life, because he's already done more for me than I could ever ask for or deserve. When I look at what God has done in my life, he already invited me into his family. He already took away all of my sins and wiped the slate clean. He already calls me his child. And if all he asked is that I return a tenth back to him, that would be reason enough to obey. But there's something else that happens in my life when I put God first. And it's not that I get rich. It's that when I get the God thing right and I get the money thing right, I get my life right. Like when God is in his proper position as first in my life, then the rest of my life falls into its proper position as well. See, every spending decision is a spiritual decision. What would your bank statement reveal about how much you trust God? And for some of us, it's the reason why life is a struggle. You think that your struggle financially is because of money, but it's not a money issue, it's a heart issue. It's a trust issue. Some of you are praying for God to intervene in your financial situation, but you're unwilling to be obedient with what he has already entrusted to you. And so you would discover, if you would be obedient in this one area, it would shift your heart in such a way that you would begin to align other areas of your life around God's ways as well. And you begin to realize if God can be trusted in this area, he can be trusted in all areas. And it would actually have such an impact on your faith. And that is what God wants for you. This is why he asks this of us. This isn't just about money. This is about God's position in your life. And either he's the king or he isn't. And surrendering control of this area more than anything else determines who is sitting on the throne in your life. And so this is such an important thing. Tithing is an act of obedience. Now, there's one last thing that's just this incredible benefit to this. Tithing moves God's kingdom forward. When we do what we do collectively, returning back to God 10% through your local church, it allows us to do things collectively as a church family that we could never do individually, that no single one of us could do on our own. Just like with serving, God always works through people. And when we take what God has entrusted to us and we return it back through our local church, God uses the collective resources to accomplish his purposes here on earth. And I love that when our family gives to Westbridge Church and so many other families give to Westbridge Church, that we are able to do something collectively that we could never do on our own. When you're obedient in this area, here's what happens. It transforms your money into a seed that gets planted that God can use to bring an amazing harvest. This is the analogy that the Apostle Paul uses with the church in Corinth. He writes this to them: God will generously provide all you need, and you will always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. For God is the one who provides seed for the farmer and then bread to eat. In the same way, he will provide and increase your resources and then produce a great harvest of generosity in you. The harvest that takes place in your own life is that you continue to grow in generosity, that you become more and more like Jesus. But then I love this analogy. Paul says that God is the one who gives both the seed for the farmer, and then bread to eat. Here's why that matters. That order matters, because if I take the seed that I have and I just use that grain and I just produce bread with it, that will last me for a season. And then what do I do the next season? I'm out. And the farmer knows that, right? So the only way, the leap of faith, is to take a portion of that and to plant seed. Plant seed in the ground, believing that I will see a harvest. And then when I harvest the seed, then I'm able to make some bread, and then I'm able to take a portion of that and plant more seed. And it's this perpetual thing. But if I don't take that leap of faith and plant the seed, then I never see the harvest. And this is what God asks us to do with what he's entrusted to us. And when we do it, he produces an incredible harvest, not only in our own hearts and lives, but in the world around us. It's not about the amount, it's about the act of obedience and growing your faith. Now, I understand there's fear around this. Trust me, I do. I'm a natural skeptic. I'm a natural cynic. I genuinely, however, believe that God wants to do something incredible at Westbridge Church. And I think that we are poised to experience an amazing harvest in the next couple of years as we respond in obedience. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. If you're a follower of Jesus, would you consider making this commitment to take the leap of faith and begin to respond in obedience with the resources he's entrusted you? Now, here's the temptation. I was talking to somebody after the first service, and they said, look, I love this. It's really challenging for me, but I'm trying to figure out how to get there. That's a great question. It's a fair question. I would encourage you to do this. This is the temptation for all of us. Okay, I'm gonna look at my budget. I'm gonna think strategically about what are some areas that I can cut back in order to try to give more or whatever. And here's what I want to encourage you to do. That's how I would naturally approach it. And I think what that does is you're trying to solve a faith question with some strategic money answers. I would encourage you instead to just go, God, if this is what you say, and this really isn't a money issue, but this is an obedience and a faith issue, then my challenge to you would be this. Go and try it. Commit 6 paychecks, 8 paychecks, and go, okay, God, here's when I get paid, and the first thing I'm going to do is return 10% back to you. And I'm going to do it over the next 6 or 8 paychecks or whatever it is, and we've done this before, 90-day tithe challenge. Maybe you say 90 days. Pick a time frame and just go, God, I am going to try this. And it's not me being strategic with numbers. It's me just responding in obedience and growing my faith. And then I will figure things out on the back end because that's what you promised you would help me to do. That's how you do it. You don't try to strategically figure out how do I get there. You go, God, I'm going to respond in obedience, and I believe that you're going to help me on the back end once I plant the seed that you're going to bring a harvest. That's what that looks like. I wish it was easier. I wish it was. I wish I could be. Let me give you some strategic steps. But I really genuinely believe the heart behind this is for us to respond in obedience. Now, before we close, we just have a couple minutes left. I want to bring an update on where we've been as a church, and this is kind of let me transition here a little bit. Where we've been as a church and our building campaign. So many have asked about this, and I just want to bring an update to this. And really, over the next 2 years, we want to be really faithful with bringing more monthly updates on where we're at to keep this in front of us. The tension that we have is we don't want to be a church where people go, oh, they're just always about your money. But we want to be really responsible to go, hey, here's where we've been. So last year at this time, we rolled out a campaign where we asked families from Westbridge Church to give above and beyond the tithe, which means, this is not simply returning back 10%. It's not taking the 10% I was given and shifting it over to the campaign. That doesn't help us, that hurts us. This is actually giving extra to help us accomplish a very specific project, expanding this physical location. So many of you are aware that we've grown in the last 2 years. This last year, we added a Thursday night service. Okay, Thursday night service has been awesome. It's given us more room to grow because there are so many people that can't make it on the weekends, or it's been a release valve to give us even more service, more chairs, and more opportunities for people to show up. And that's been going awesome. Now, 8 a.m. here on Sunday morning, the 8 a.m. service has been growing like crazy. And over the last couple of months, we've seen 8 a.m. start to look like what our 9:30 or 11 a.m. service was looking like a couple of years ago. So that's amazing. We're beginning to max out Sunday services, except for during this series, which we're scaring people away. So we're kind of solving our own problem here. We're having like 240, 250, 260 kids show up on a Wednesday night for youth ministry, taking over this entire building, small groups in every nook and cranny of this building. It's unbelievable. We've had record attendance in kids in the last month, upwards of almost 400 kids, newborn through 5th grade, just on a Sunday morning. We have more illegal parking than the fire marshal will be comfortable with. And so we just recognize that these are good problems. These are growth problems. This is a great opportunity for us as a church. What we are beginning to see is the harvest of seeds that have been planted over the last 19 years. That's amazing, right? And God's bringing the increase. And so now it's our responsibility to plant the seeds for the next season. It's our responsibility to be obedient and plant the seeds for the next harvest, for the next generation. And so in real numbers, let me just talk real numbers for just a minute. When we launched this campaign 1 year ago, we said this would be a 3-year giving initiative. So for 3 years, above and beyond what we normally give, can we give to this to try to get to phase 2? The total cost of building phase 2 is $10 million, and we owe $3 million on this building. So that's $13 million total. You go, why is that so much? I would wonder the same thing, and I do. And all I can tell you is this. We built this building 6 years ago. The cost of construction was $200 a square foot. And now the cost of construction, 6 years later, is $450 a square foot. So it's not because we're building something extravagant. We're literally it's the same footprint. We're just doubling the size, but it's 2.5 times the cost of what it was 6 years ago. That's just where we're at in our economy. So $13 million gets us into phase 2 to expand this facility. But because of the equity that we have in this building is worth almost 8. We only owe a little less than 3. So because of that, we have equity. We have equity to borrow against. We can finance a chunk of this. So what we need to get to put a shovel in the ground is $4 million. Okay? And when we get to $4 million, then we know, okay, we can finance the rest, and that'll just be our monthly mortgage, and we'll continue to operate as a church. Now, last year at this time, we asked people, would you consider giving above and beyond for the next 3 years to help us get there? We had 222 families that made a commitment and made a pledge and said, yes, we will do that. And those 222 families, the amount of money that they pledged collectively is almost $2 million, just under $2 million, $1.9 million. So that's awesome. That's a great number that gets us started. Now, here we are. We're 1 year through this 3-year campaign, and as a result of that, that means basically we're 33% through the campaign, right? Of those people that made pledges, so far the dollar amount that has come in is $488,863 in the last year. So that gets us off to a good start. That's about 25% of the pledges, of these initial pledges. Now, our hope is that we can make up the other $2 million by simply living with margin in our regular budget. That just the regular giving each month, when we pay off all of our operating and ministry costs each month, that we can put money into savings, and that over the next couple of years, we can save an additional $2 million to add to the nearly $2 million that's been pledged to get us to that $4 million number. So here's what I'm going to ask from you, those of you who are here today watching online. Number 1, if you are a follower of Jesus and you do not currently tithe, I'm just going to ask you to start there. I'm just going to say, would you just consider trying it? Would you consider being obedient, return back to God 10% out of what he's entrusted to you? I wouldn't even say, I'm not even asking you to give to the campaign. I would say just start there. Just do that. And I said this last week, and it's like a mic drop moment, and it's not meant to be a guilt trip. It's just meant to inform. There are churches around the country that never do building campaigns. They just simply go, hey, we're ready for a new building, let's do it. And it's because they have so many people who are obedient in the area of tithing that they just have enough all the time to continue to do that. I would love for us to be that type of church. I would love for us to be the church that this is the last giving campaign we ever do, and the next time that we have to launch a big ministry initiative, we just go, hey, I just wanted to let you know, so many of you are so faithful that I just want to let you know we're, opening this, or we're doing that, or, and just go, hey, by the way, we had the money because you've been so generous and so faithful with the tithe for so long. I would love that. And the reality is this, and again, this is not a guilt trip, I just want to make you aware. If every person who called Westbridge, we have 3,500 people who call Westbridge their home. If every one of those people said, God, I want to be obedient to you in this area of my life, we would already be under construction. That's just a reality. And so I want to inspire us to go, man, I want to be obedient in this one area. So that's maybe that first group of you that just go, I'm a follower of Jesus and I'm not there. Would you just respond in obedience? Secondly, if you're someone who does that, and you've joined Westbridge Church in the last 12 months, and you weren't here when we did the original campaign, and you say, you know what, I want to jump in for the last 2 years of this campaign. That sounds exciting. Then I'm going to encourage you to just pray about it this week, and next week we'll give you the opportunity to make a pledge and say, all right, I'm jumping in for the final 2 years. I want to give, and here's what that looks like. And you'll have the opportunity to do that. And then third, would you consider planting a seed during our legacy offering next week? Once a year, every November, we take a legacy offering that typically goes towards outside projects. But we knew that last year, this year, and next year, that's going to go towards our capital campaign towards the building project. Whether you've already made a pledge or you're just joining the campaign next week, would you consider giving a chunk next week towards this initiative? We want to finish 2025 strong and head into 2026 with a head full of steam. Now, timing-wise, best case scenario, okay? Best case scenario is that we can break ground on phase 2 in the spring of 2027. So that means that we would be about 2 years through our campaign. We'd still be raising money in the third year of the campaign, and as we're doing that, they're already building even as we're raising money. Now, that's best case scenario, okay? Now, that would be like everything goes the way it should, and barring, we could do it sooner if somebody wins the lottery or something. That'd be great. People ask me, too, like, if somebody won the lottery and you knew where that came from, and they wanted to tithe to the church, would you accept that? And my answer is always the same, 100%. I wouldn't bat an eye. I would accept that. So, just saying. But here's the reality. Barring somebody winning the lottery, this is probably the best timeline that we have. Would be in 18 months, we could break ground, and then it takes about a year to build. So we would be in the spring of 2028 in a double the size of our facility. It doubles all of our kids and student spaces. It doubles our parking. It doubles our adult space. Everything doubles, okay? That's really good news. But that may also take us a year or two longer, depending on our collective response. So let me just say this. The vision is clear. We know exactly what we're going to build. We know exactly what it's going to cost. We know, everything's laid out. The vision couldn't be more clear, but it is our collective response that will determine the when. So, if you say this, well, we're going to move at the pace of our collective generosity. If we want to get there faster, then we just got to, the only way that the needle moves is through our collective response. If you feel that you got to choose between being obedient with the tithe or jumping into the campaign, then I'm just going to tell you this. Just be obedient with the tithe. At the end of the day, that will grow your faith more and move God's kingdom forward. And I would rather have a church of consistent and obedient tithers than to have to do a giving campaign every 3 years. So if you're able to only choose one, be obedient with the tithes, test God in this, and see if he doesn't bless your life in ways you never imagined. And finally, I would say this. At the heart of all of this, the reason this matters is because you were created in the image of a generous God. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that anyone who believes in him, anyone who puts their trust in him, would not perish, would not be lost to God, but would have eternal life, can experience being a part of God's family forever. That is what you are invited into. Generosity and giving and being obedient with the tithe, none of that is a prerequisite to following Jesus. All of that is response to all that he's done for us. So, if you've never said yes to following Jesus, you're invited. You're invited. Whether you're watching online, here in the room, if that's your next step and you want to say, yes, I want to follow Jesus and make him the leader of my life, would you just respond, just agree in your heart with this prayer? God, please forgive my sins. Forgive me for the times that I've walked away from you. I'm so thankful you never walk away from me. God, I want to say yes to your invitation. Make me your son, make me your daughter. Help me to put my trust in you and to follow you as best as I know how from this moment on. I want you to be the leader of my life. And God, I pray for every single one of us who are followers of you. God, this is a personally challenging message, and I know that. And I pray that you would help us, God, our faith to grow. More than anything else, what you want is our hearts to trust in you. And so I pray that each of us would reflect on this. We would reflect on our own lives. God, that we would have the wisdom to know how to respond, and that we would have the courage to respond in obedience in this area, knowing that when we do this, God, our faith, our trust in you grows, and your kingdom ultimately moves forward. So God, thank you. We love you, and we pray all of this in your name. Amen. Before we go, if that's your next step and you said yes to following Jesus, I want you to know we have a box of resources we'd love to give you. And if you would just swing by the Next Steps area, bring them your connection card, we'd love to put that box in your hands. Thank you so much for your continual generosity. Everything we do here is because of you. If we've never met, I'd love for you to come say hi. Otherwise, have a great week. We'll see you next time.